Hi, everyone. Happy Wellness Wednesdays. Thank you again for joining us for another wonderful Wellness Wednesday. My name is Claudia Wong. I'm a nurse practitioner and co-founder of Mindful Nurses. So Mindful Nurses is a platform to help promote the self-care and well-being of nurses. So oftentimes there's lots of self-care guidance for caregivers or patients, but there's not a ton out there for nurses who are also in their own way caregivers. So this is a beautiful chance for nurses to reflect back and learn information about how to improve their health and holistic well-being. Every Wednesday we have a holistic wellness talk or practice special for nurses. So this is for you guys. Hope you guys continue enjoying. And today I'm really excited to introduce Tara Kosmas. She's going to be talking about self-compassion. It's such a beautiful and important topic. I found that, over the last few years, I've been trying to practice this a lot for myself, and it really makes a difference how you move through the world. It's really about like self-acceptance, not holding on to like disappointments, because that can just be detrimental. So I'm really excited to explore this topic a little bit more with Tara. So Tara is also, she's calling in from Baltimore, Maryland, and she's the founder. She's a registered nurse and founder of a nonprofit organization, Debriefing the Front Lines and Heal the Healers Project. Tara is a burn survivor and a registered nurse of 17 years with a clinical background in burn trauma and medical ICU. She's also a former university professor and simulation lab coordinator. She's worked at Florida Gulf Coast University, Fort Myers, Florida, and Towson University in Maryland. She holds both a debriefing and peer support certification and is most known for her work in debriefing single incident and cumulative caretaking trauma. Self-exploration and DBT informed individual and small group coaching. She's coached over 300 registered nurses, empowering them to become the highest version of self, both in and out of the nursing profession. And so thank you so much. You've done a lot of work with nurses, which is amazing. Thank you for helping this population. And I'll leave it to you. We can introduce yourself a bit more and what got you into this, and tell us about your projects and the topic.
So thank you, Claudia, for having me on this beautiful platform, Mindful Nurses. I understand that, there are so many virtual offerings. You're kind of being inundated with lots of opportunity for virtual offerings. So anyone that has shown up in this space now or in the replay, I appreciate it so much. And I also would like you to take a moment to commend yourself for showing up in this space, because showing up is sometimes really difficult. Many of us will want to be or have thought, lay on the couch, lay in bed. But no, you showed up here, which is an act of self-compassion in itself. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. I don't really think I need to do much of an introduction right now. Thank you for the incredible introduction. You kind of learn more about me and about the organization as the presentation goes on. So I think that we should just get to it.
Yeah, sounds good.
And can you see it? No. Okay. Give me a second.
Yeah, not yet. Okay, yes.
Awesome.
There we
go. Okay. So welcome everyone to Zoom into You and Self-Compassion. As Claudia mentioned, I'm a registered nurse. I am a 23% burn survivor, And much of the work I do, I feel like is a gratitude project because nurses, just like all of you, one day cared for me during like some of the darkest hours of survival. And it always makes me emotional. It's like an overwhelming feeling of gratitude to be able to kind of give back to my profession in this way. So before we start, I wanted to set an intention for tonight, and it's a broad collective intention, but this intention is, may we as a force brave collective choose ourself, and in doing so, choose one another. Okay? So, let me start here. So my husband, he is a veteran. We founded Debriefing the Front Lines and the Heal the Healers Project in March of 2020 in response to the global pandemic. As an experienced nurse and a former nursing professor, well, at the time I was still teaching, I received a lot of reach outs. And one day, March 16th, 2020, over 26 people reached out, and it was the first time that really our profession was fearful. They were fearful for themselves, their communities, their families, their patients. And it was really the first time in 17 years of my career where I felt like that this profession was fearful. So what started out as a community project offering debriefing services, I was not on the front lines. So I tapped into, asking myself, bringing awareness, like I'm not on the front lines, but what talents, what gifts, what offerings do I have? How can I serve my profession? So I have this debriefing certification. So just through social media, we started offering debriefings. We started offering a daily text message of love and support. I've been sending that now for 15 months. You can sign up to receive a message of support and encouragement at 6:15 a.m. or p.m. based upon your shift selection. It is a very unique offering in that if you need support, if you're feeling pre-shift anxiety, you can respond, and you are responding. I am responding directly back to you. So with all of that said, basically our mission is to deliver psychological first aid as we continue to redefine what it means to be a modern nurse working in a global pandemic, a humanitarian crisis, and beyond. Currently, we have about 400 members in our organization, and about 275 are active. I use the word debriefing a lot, so I just kind of wanted to take a quick moment and kind of explain what debriefing is. You all can read this infographic, but basically it examines our actions, our thought process of a particular event, good or bad. And it encourages us to grow from it, to look at what can we learn from this experience. And it is an art. It is done in a psychologically safe space, and it can be single incident or kind of cumulative caretaking trauma. For example, I worked in the burn unit for a long time, many years, and I believe that my trauma was more cumulative caretaking as opposed to one single incident. I just want to mention that every single debriefing session through our nonprofit organization is free of charge. You will be placed with me or a therapist that we have on our team. So this is something that we offer to the community free of charge. So if you or anyone you know are in need of this service, please let me know. We also go to hospitals and institutions and teach educators how to debrief as well. So basically, kind of quickly, I want to talk about like what exactly our organization is. And there's three components. We call it the solar system. Debriefing the Front Lines is the legal name of our organization. It is, like I said, our mission, it's rooted in the standards of nursing practice. It provides debriefing, education to individuals, small groups. We really believe that every loss is a wound that must be healed, and every win must be celebrated, and it must be done in community. Community is so important. I didn't realize the power of community until I think I was like 19 years old, and I walked into a burn support group, and excuse me, I literally had an oh shit moment, like, wow, I am not alone. Because that was really the first time I had been around like my people. So it's like, never doubt this power of community. And then Heal the Healers Project, this is the curriculum of our organization. This is the beating heart of our organization. This is where kind of our teachings arise from. We just received, I'm very proud of this, we just received continuing education provider status, CEU provider status. So in the near future, many offerings just like these, nurses in compact licensure states only, that is 38 states, we don't have it in all states yet, will be able to receive continuing education credits. The last component seems to get the most attention because it is a very beautiful part of the organization, and that is Cosmic Garden. And Cosmic Garden is the fundraising and creative component to the organization. It's this connection between healing, creativity, play, freedom. And, we believe that creating is to invent ourselves, one more time, giving life to the things that we love, that we are passionate about. So we offer floral pop-ups in and around Baltimore, flower crown workshops, bouquet making workshops, writing retreats, music lessons. So this is kind of the creative play of our organization. So I suppose every good presentation has a list of objectives, but you all can read these for yourself. The most important one that I want you all to remember is to take what you need from this and leave the rest. I don't have all the answers. And there might be just some things that don't resonate with you, but you can find comfort in knowing that what doesn't resonate with you might resonate with a colleague or someone else, because we're all kind of at different evolutions of ourself right now. So just a quick kind of core emotion check-in. If you're following along, if you could kind of tap in, dig deep, and describe how you're feeling in one word. If you want to write this word down, because we'll revisit this kind of a couple times throughout the night. It's a nice check-in with yourself. It brings awareness to yourself, and mindfulness or awareness is one of the 3 components of self-compassion. So we're on a roll. Like, you showed up, that's awesome. Self-compassion, core emotion check-in. Here we are, more self-compassion. So just take a few minutes and write down one word. So now we're going to go into it. Self-compassion in our nursing practice. We are all familiar with the American Nurses Association Code of Ethics provision number 5. And essentially this states, you can read it, that the nurse owes the same duties of self that they do to others. So this includes a responsibility for health, safety, wellness, preserving our character, our integrity, while maintaining competence, while growing in and out of our profession. So when I see this, I think, may our commitment to service always include ourselves. Like, let that be our anthem. The American Nurses Association Code of Ethics said it for us. May our commitment to service always include ourself. When we look at it this way, when we examine it this way, we tend to feel less guilt. When we need an emotional health day, when we need an emotional health week, if we need to take a leave of absence and use our FMLA because we are tired, think of this. Your commitment to service should always include yourself. There have been times in my life where I have had to take a medical leave because I had cumulative caretaking trauma. And I believe, I know without a shadow of a doubt that the truth is that rest made me a better human, a better partner, a better registered nurse, a better teacher. So yeah, just keep this in your back pocket. So Nightingale's perspective of self-compassion is so beautiful. Nightingale, actually, a lot of her theories really mirror that of some of our world religions. She was very mystical in nature, which I love all that stuff. And if you haven't read Nursing as a Spiritual Practice, it is like the most beautiful book, and I highly recommend it. And every time I do one of these presentations, I promote this book. I get nothing for it. I just love it so much. And it's essentially her journal and her thoughts that in 1994, the University of Pennsylvania edited because journals and thoughts don't have correct punctuation. So it was re-edited. It was written in the 1800s and then edited by the University of Pennsylvania in 1994. But essentially, Nightingale's belief is that compassion is universal love. And it arises from our inner consciousness. And as we evolve just naturally as a human being, as the personal self becomes unified with spirit through this process of evolution, the higher qualities of self-compassion or universal love become actualized. And this is just a really beautiful way of looking at nursing as a spiritual practice, nursing as universal love. Your love heals me, my love heals you. This is universal love. So self-compassion basically means that it's a form of universal love that embraces all individuals regardless of their personal attributes. So this includes yourself. This isn't just your neighbor, your partner, your children, your coworkers. This is yourself too. We are individuals. And essentially, this is a component of self-compassion, which we'll get into, loving kindness. Self-compassion, many of you know this, you've heard this over and over again, but just a loving reminder that self-compassion involves responding the same way you would to others, responding that way to yourself. So when you are facing challenges, disappointments, when you fall short of your ideals, you are nurturing yourself with the same love, this universal love that you have inside that you give to others. And self-compassion honors the unavoidable fact, this sounds pessimistic, but it's true, life entails suffering for everyone. Without exception, everyone has sat in the darkness. Everyone has trauma of some sort, without exception. And accepting this is basically common humanity, the thought that you are not alone. We are experiencing this life together. This is the human experience, and it's messy and it hurts sometimes. And accepting this is accepting kind of compassion over criticism. So, that's a mantra for me often, compassion over criticism. If the negative thoughts start creeping in, we try to replace those with compassion over criticism. So the three components of self-compassion, this is self-kindness, or as Florence Nightingale called it, loving kindness. I often call this loving language, because this is self-kindness is basically, how you are speaking to yourself. Words are really important. And I will give an example, personal example, how would my life look different if I referred to myself as a burn victim as opposed to a burn survivor? To me, that one word, victim versus survivor, kind of sets the tone for loving language, for self-kindness. So self-kindness, loving language, showing your self-compassion through the awareness of your language versus self-judgment, criticism. So this is kind of where that compassion over criticism fits in. The second component of self-compassion is common humanity. And we talked a little bit about this. Common humanity is basically this human experience that we are on. We all make mistakes. We all fall short of our ideals. But this is the thought and the framing that we are all going through this together. This is not something that is happening to me and me alone. And sometimes, we all slip into that kind of like, why me? Like, we've all have asked that. We all have. It's okay to kind of sit there for a minute, but then bringing awareness that even though you might not see it right now, we are on a shared human experience versus isolation. And isolation is the thought that this is happening to me and me alone. And you can see where the use of loving language is really, really important. Like, man, this hurts. I know I'm not alone, versus like, this is only happening to me. There is such a power in language. And, language that we use can really shape our lives. Absolutely. And then mindfulness, which is awareness versus over-identification. So mindfulness is, all of this is a practice. It is a learned art. It is about daily commitment, daily consistency. I have been working on this for 20 years. And like, I'm still not an expert at caring for myself. This takes a lot of practice. And we might have periods of time where we're like really practicing self-compassion, and then we move away, and then we're back to it. And that's okay. This is the shared human experience. And we all do that. We all do that. So mindfulness is bringing awareness, recognizing when we are stressed, when we are struggling, noticing the triggers, bringing awareness to the triggers. Like, wow, something just triggered inside of me. Something does not feel good. There might be a kick in the gut. My palms might be sweaty. Bringing awareness to your feelings, noticing what causes you to feel unwell. And this is just over and over again, the practice of self-awareness versus over-identification. Over-identification is when we are kind of swept away by the negative thoughts. And there are two types of over-identification that Florence Nightingale talked about in the 80s, I forget the other researcher, it's escaping my mind right now, but another researcher kind of started diving into over-identification and kind of defined these two modes, sympathetic and defensive modes, which we will get into. So mindfulness is this non-judgmental, kind of receptive mind state where we are observing the thoughts, observing the triggers, observing the feelings, while noting what keeps us well and unwell. And over-identification is kind of simply put, it's like that loop in your mind of irrational thoughts that like once you go there, you're like, ah, how do I get out of this? That loop in your mind.
And yeah, I just to comment on the mindfulness. I feel like that's the first step, actually, kind of being aware of what's happening and putting a name to it, like your emotions, like what you were having participants do. And yeah, identifying what's going on in your body, like, and kind of connecting that to an emotion, but not being attached to that and not judging it.
Yeah.
But yeah, recognizing it. So.
I mean, I've talked to nurses and I've kind of had this symptom as well. Like some nurses have had, stomach aches or GI issues, for 10 years, like their entire nursing career, just thinking like, oh, I have a sensitive stomach. But really, that is a somatic symptom, kind of over-identification, of burnout. I respect anyone who uses the language, but I personally do not use the word burnout much in my teachings. I just personally feel that burnout is a word and a way used to like capitalize on nursing fatigue. So I use the term over-identification, and the term over-identification, this basically means that nursing is very much an exchange of energy. And over-identification means that we are identifying with the patient's feelings and what the patient does while forgetting about the self. So we take on essentially the energy of the patient. And the goal is awareness of our energy. We will fluctuate, we will ebb and flow between these three modes. But the goal, kind of, you said the first step is mindfulness. So observing and being aware of this energy. So the first mode is the sympathetic mode. And we as nurses have all felt this, and it's basically the needs of the patient trigger the sympathetic response in the nurse. The nurse feels what the patient does, their hopes, their fears kind of become the nurse. And it's hard to identify the self. And over-identification of the patient remains with the nurse even on days off, causing fatigue. And this is essentially like what burnout is. Taking that you're in sympathetic mode and you're taking the energy of your workspace, of the patient, of the hospital, of the short staffing, of the list of problems that there is in our healthcare system, and kind of you are taking that on and it's affecting you on your days off. And the defensive mode is when the demands of the patient kind of cause anxiety in the nurse, and they unconsciously kind of utilize a variety of self-protective behaviors. So this is the opposite of sympathetic. The patient's demands are causing anxiety, and these self-protective behaviors are often like emotional distancing, like coldness, feeling cold, withdrawal, excessively task-oriented, less emotional work, just more task-oriented, get it done. And even derogatory labeling, demanding, uncooperative. Generally speaking, in defensive mode, the nurse is angry. If we have not been here ourselves, probably a nurse comes to mind. Like, that is a nurse's personality that I know. And this is over-identification, living kind of in the defensive mode. And creating these defense mechanisms requires a great deal of energy, which fatigues the nurse. And again, all of this is like burnout and feelings of guilt often arise in a defensive mode because, angry and these protective mechanisms, that's not the like traditional ideal picturesque view of what a registered nurse should be. So yeah, this often comes with like a lot of guilt and shame, but we can't always identify that. And the holistic mode is kind of the mode of compassion. And this is where we're supposed to, our goal. This is kind of where we would want to live at. And this is basically the nurse is aware of the patient's state of being and of their own personal response. So this is the mindfulness that we spoke of. This is the awareness. And I think, I know when we are ebbing and flowing, sympathetic, defensive, holistic modes, it can be very exhausting, and it's important to remember that component of self-compassion, which is common humanity, and that like collectively as a profession of 2.6 million registered nurses in the United States, we are all ebbing and flowing through these modes, and we're doing it together. And this is common humanity, and accepting that is a component of self-compassion. May we, as a fierce, brave collective, choose ourselves, and in doing so, choose one another. So the holistic mode, again, this is kind of where we aim to live at. This is the golden ticket. And from Nightingale's perspective, it is thought that we reach this mode through the development of spirituality. She didn't say, what type of God, where God is, if it was even God. So I often refer to this as spirit, and you can kind of decide what that spirit is. Is it the leaves? Is it the trees? Is it the flowers? Is it a person? You get to decide. The most important thing is that you're bringing awareness to this thought. And the holistic mode is kind of the integration of mind, body, spirit, creating a whole self. And this, again, is awareness. Just when you're going through a tough time or a good time, you're feeling good, bringing awareness, like, what is my core emotion? I probably check in on my emotional state like 20 times a day. I am a deep feeler, and I need that. So yeah, checking in with yourself is integrating, and your symptoms is integrating this mind-body connection. In the holistic mode, we have a secure sense of our own identity. So we are strong, we are rooted in our energy, and the needfulness, the neediness that triggers like the over-identification, the sympathetic and defensive modes are diminished because like we are strong and we are rooted in our own identity. And how you get to this strength, how you get to this root is really by bringing the awareness to the three components of self-compassion, including the compassionate language. And everyone kind of arrives in this like space in different ways, and that's the beauty of being on this human experience. And the holistic mode, Nightingale believed, is working in cooperation with the divine. Again, she was very mystical, the divine and natural spirits, to facilitate the evolution of human wholeness. Really beautiful. And just kind of a rhetorical question, like, no matter where you're at in your nursing practice, if you are in the beds, if you are at bedside, if you are in a clinic, if you're in academia, if you're a nurse practitioner, you don't even have to be a nurse to answer this question. Just keep coming back to the question, how can I show up and love myself a little bit more each day? Each day. All you have to do is find one simple way to love yourself a little more each day. And it might be something as simple as drinking water with a metal straw, because it's more refreshing to me then. You have to figure out how to show up for yourself. It is not in the grand and dramatic gestures. It is in the simple daily doings of our everyday life. So a couple exercises to help evoke self-compassion. You all have heard these many, many times before. Many of these exercises were researched by the self-compassion expert, Dr. Kristen Neff. If you are not familiar with her, I highly, highly recommend reading her work. She's a beautiful self-compassion test, self-assessment as well. But one of the exercises that you can start with is kind of write about a version of yourself that you admire most, and list your strengths. Speak to yourself as you would a friend. Once you have your strengths down, which that can be hard, this sounds so simple, but I guarantee you this is so challenging for some. Take it a step further, write a letter to yourself, compliment yourself by incorporating those strengths. Save the letter and come back to it. On the days when you ask yourself, how can I keep showing up for myself? How can I love myself even more each day? If you don't have an answer that day because you're feeling so bad, take out that letter. Remind yourself of your strengths. This is our grand rising. I mean, we are fierce, we are brave, we have a lot of talents, a lot of gifts. And when I say we, I am talking about the collective profession. I have a nurse, a beautiful human, who started out in March 2020 in a ICU that quickly became a COVID ICU. She was a brand new nurse walking into the COVID ICU. We have been debriefing at least once a week since March of 2020. There were some days we were debriefing 3 times a week. She was calling me after each shift. It was that horrendous and that horrific, as many of you probably know. But she wrote this letter to herself, and no matter how hard her day was, no matter how, no matter how bad she just wanted to get home, before she went home, she kept the letter in her car and she read it after every shift. There's a lot of self-doubt that comes with our profession, and reminding of ourselves of our strengths is bringing awareness to the beauty that is us. It is universal love that includes us.
I think that's a great practice to write down, your strengths and compliment yourself, because I find that that's probably something that people don't do, like acknowledge, how good they are in certain aspects and write that down.
Right.
Oftentimes it's like all, it's all about the patient and what can you do for them and things like that, but not really acknowledge yourself and your strengths. So thank you for that. That's great.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, there's so much research in like the spiritual practice of nursing, like the care of nursing, but there's very little research as nursing as a spiritual practice. This is my love is a spiritual practice. So there's very little research in that, but I believe that we are redefining what it means to be a modern nurse. Florence Nightingale said it would take 150 years for her visions to come to life. And, it might take 150 years for our visions, this collective vision, to come to life. And that's okay, because love creates movements, and movements last a lifetime. We are here in it for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
Another exercise that sounds very simple and maybe a little juvenile but this is powerful. Look yourself in the mirror, look into your eyes and say, I love you. When was the last time you told yourself that I love you? When was the last time you came home to your sacred shelter of self and felt your own universal love as your profound medicine? Every day when you wake up, I challenge you all to look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you. I need to start doing this again. I got off that track.
It could be like if you put on makeup every day, just do it then, like build it into your routine.
Yeah, that's actually a really great idea. I don't often meditate in the traditional way where I'm like sitting still. I often have guided meditations when I'm doing my hair, when I'm doing my makeup, as opposed to listening to the radio or whatnot. So yeah, you can do these things anywhere. And the beauty is like, you are the creator of your self-compassion, self-soothe tool belt. What works for you might not work for others. So the next one is, and the last one I believe, is what I call on-the-job self-compassion for healers. So oftentimes we are incredibly overwhelmed by the care we are required to provide. There are so many tasks, there are so many meds, there are so many meetings, whatever specialty you're in our profession. But in these very challenging times, when you're turning a patient, when you are starting an IV, you can still give yourself permission to meet your own needs by using loving language. Something like in your head, you can say this while you're turning a patient, like, I know this is hard, but I am here for you. And this is loving, nurturing the self. And I always ask, participants when I do these speaking engagements, if your charge nurse walked up to you and said, or your boss, whoever, and said, I know this is hard for you, I am here for you, how would you feel? You would feel heard, you would feel validated, you would feel loved, you would feel supported. So why not do that for yourself? And this can be done anytime. I had a male former student. He was a veteran as well, and he was having a hard time working during COVID as well. And he said, I just can't say those things to myself, Tara. Like, I want to, but for some reason I can't. So he said that he wrote them on an index. I remember specifically, he told me he wrote them on an index card and put it in his left breast pocket. And, when he was having a hard time, he took it out of his scrub pocket and he read it. Because some people, even when it's just in your mind, you're not ready to say those things to yourself. So, there's lots of ways that you kind of fill in the gap and tend to your own needs. And it's about the awareness of your own needs. And I know it's hard because you're really busy. And sometimes the environments that we're working in do not have this nurturing space. But when times are hard, it's really important that we let our own love recharge us. How can we simultaneously care for the patient while recharging ourselves? And it is through this use of awareness and language, which is self-compassion. So that was like a lot of information, I know, but in summary, may your commitment to service always include yourself. I really want this to be an anthem of some kind, like we're just chanting this because it's so important, and the American Nurses Association Code of Ethics is basically telling us this in so many words. that self-compassion is universal love. It embraces all individuals. You are an individual, so this includes us. This includes you. Self-compassion is a conscious choice. It is a daily practice. We are never an expert in it. I'm telling you guys to write a letter to yourself. Like, I don't think I have done that since 2019. So, this is like my reminder as well. Everything that I share with you all heals me with the same love and intention that I give to you. And I feel like, that is the exchange of energy. That is universal love. And then we ebb and flow between sympathetic, defensive, holistic modes. That is okay. That is our shared collective nursing human experience. Typo there. Oops, I gotta fix that. And it's about bringing awareness and identifying what we need to stay well. And over-identification, that taking on the patient's energy and forgetting ourself leads to fatigue, stress, general dis-ease. Claudia, I just have some information about some of the services we offer. If there's time, I can go over these. If not, people can look them up on their own. I don't know if you wanted to have like a question and answer session. It's totally up to you.
You can go ahead and go over your services. That'd be great. Okay.
So our most popular service is the Heal the Healers Communication Initiative. We have about 275 participants. It is a originally authored message, kind of very similar to a lot of the mantras I've said: compassion over criticism, your commitment to service, always remaining yourself. They're very similar to all of that, and their messages sent 6:15 a.m. or p.m. based upon shift selection, Monday through Saturday, because Sunday is like my rest day, my day of self-compassion. It helps decrease pre-shift anxiety. If I didn't already say this, this is our most popular offering. And I've been sending these myself now for 15 months. And it is really just like, I know it's simple, but I feel this is my greatest life's work. I have connected to so many beautiful human beings through this. Many respond back, and many often have booked sessions as well. And the cost of this, we are a nonprofit. The cost of this is $5 a month. We try to keep it super low. We also have some sponsorships and whatnot, and it's basically just to pay the operational costs. Another offering that we have, this is complimentary. We have my dear friend Sarah. She has a master's degree in clinical herbalism. And every month on the new moon, she holds a healer's new moon magic circle. And this is just a space for meditation, journaling, intention setting. We're trying to pull in kind of all components of the mystical, spiritual world as we are kind of building ourself and becoming the best possible version of ourselves. We have a self-study subscription. Again, we try to keep the cost really low. It is only $28 a month for the hard copy subscription, and then $12 a month for the digital subscription. And it is a reflection card. This illustration right here, these are all custom illustrations. This illustration was one for radical acceptance. It comes with a digital worksheet, and then we have a monthly support circle as well, where we talk about radical acceptance, whatever the word is of the month: radical acceptance, compassion, self-soothe, authenticity. This has been a really great experience. And I just wanted to express my utmost gratitude to you and Mindful Nurses for having me, for kind of supporting Debriefing the Front Lines and the Heal the Healers curriculum. I really believe that the only way is through community, and I am forever grateful.
Thank you so much, Tara. And I see your contact information there. You have some great offerings, all different types of ways to reach people. Maybe some people just need a nice little text message of encouragement, and maybe other people have a little bit more time that they're able to invest a little bit more in those community and education. So that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, we really tried to focus on sustained emotional wellness and kind of making that available to all. Is that my email or yours? That's mine.
Oh, yours still.
I'm going to stop my share. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's great. And I was wondering, are you you're fully are you working elsewhere as a nurse too, or is this your full?
So right now, this is my full-time job. We have been very busy. I've had a lot of speaking engagements and whatnot. So this right now is my full-time job. We are actually looking to hire, and we have some positions open soon. We have 2 therapists that have kind of joined our team, and we also have someone who joined our team. Her name is Claire, and she does like spatial healing and things like that. So right now, this is my full-time job. I am very lucky because my husband is very supportive.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for this wonderful offering, and I'll drop your like contact information in the chat too in case.
Yeah, and just a reminder that all debriefings are free of charge. If you or anyone just have them come this way.
Okay, yeah, that's such a wonderful thing, especially during this pandemic. Thank you.
Yeah.
You and your husband for all these offerings. So thank you. And thank you everyone for tuning in either live or later on. We have a great talk about self-compassion. It's such a critical thing to incorporate in your life if you're not doing so already. So great to see you guys, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday.